I get taken up on the screen for indictment. And they're saying, hey, this guy's a Navy SEAL. He's got guys from his command out in the back, and everyone in the cell kind of looks at me, and I'm going, my whole world's done. Now I'm homeless in my car. I have a sawed-off shotgun next to me, no money. I just sat in my car, walked around and thought about killing myself or how I'm gonna do this or just how terrible I felt. And I realized at that moment of clarity from God, going, dude, this is your fault, fix it.
I'm here with the one and only Taylor Cavanaugh. Very inspiring story. U.S. military, also the Foreign Legion, had a lot of highs and lows in his life. And I heard his story about a year ago, and it really inspired me. So it's definitely a blessing to be here and talk one-on-one with you.
David, I'm glad to be here, man. Like I said, good name, slaying those dragons, slaying those giants.
Appreciate it. Mama wanted me to be brave, so.
Well, you're here, man. You made the trip out here. You know, that says a lot about you, man. It's, you know, to make the trip and, you know, not have full confidence, just trust and communication and flow. It says a lot about you.
Yeah, it was a longer flight than I expected.
Dude, it's tough getting up here, man, and it's weird times. I agree.
Yeah, had some interesting experiences last night at the hotel with the people outside, you know, coming up to me. It's a little bit different than the country in South Carolina.
Yeah, we're up in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, but it's outside of Spokane, and people that know, Spokane's kind of a rough city.
Yeah, definitely different than Myrtle Beach.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll get into it. Let's just start from the beginning with your childhood, kind of what that was like.
Yeah, I grew up in San Diego, California. My dad was in the Marine Corps. That's what brought us out there. I was born in Boston area, Gloucester, shout out Gloucester, Massachusetts. They just had a ship go down, a fishing boat go down, and had some guys die and a girl that was on shore. So they had powerful family history there. We got some roots there, but my dad was all about that warm weather, having his shirt off in the military. So you haven't been in the Coast Guard. No, if you have the choice of a warm weather or cool weather spot, you choose the warm weather spot. And that's what my dad did. Lived on a Marine base in El Toro. It was a Chinook base, the double propeller helicopters. So I was around that, but it wasn't the culture. My grandfather was a naval captain, Annapolis graduate. So I had some military history in my family, but it was not pushed by any stretch. And my dad was not a military guy, I would say. He did his 6 and got out and was, you know, he's the guy that they're like, hey, once a Marine, always a Marine. He goes, once was enough, thanks though. You know, we had a lot of respect for the military and being an American and a lot of pride there, but it definitely wasn't prominent. Some challenges though, is a lot of people might have alcohol, drugs. My dad would be the first one to admit he went through a lot of his struggles. But I was exposed to different religions and spirituality, and I always felt this guiding force or like a protection around me or with me, and I always felt like I was like meant for interesting things or powerful things, but I didn't really know what that meant. And that feeling came to a lot of clarity when I saw SEALs training in the Bay when I was 7. And I saw some glow lights floating, and my dad told me those are Navy SEALs training. I'm like, whoa, dude, commandos in the water. And so just reading a lot about it during that time, fascinated with Green Berets in Vietnam, SEALs in Vietnam, that whole time period. And so that was what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a Navy SEAL. That got shelved, girls and sports, and the history of my life has been this masterclass of self-sabotage, I would say. It was like I was running a masterclass, in which I'd like to think I've gotten corrected. And it started in high school. So I had some scholarship opportunities playing lacrosse and football, and I get kicked out of school. So this was how immature I was, and and we'll kind of hit on these, you know, I love the Truthful Productions, you know, I like getting into the truth. A lot of people they talk about the highs, but not a lot of the lows and how they felt during the lows. I lacked self-awareness on such a massive scale. I didn't really understand the gravity of what happened. So I get kicked out of school for possession of marijuana. It was in my car. It doesn't really matter how it happened, but I go, okay, you know, kind of whatever. And I had a cop who was also a coach on the campus, and he goes, Taylor, you know this is probably gonna affect you playing lacrosse next year. And I'm like, what? Like, come on, like, you know, nah, dude. I got kicked out of school, couldn't play sports, and all those opportunities kind of got flushed down the toilet. And I remember being like, still not really getting it, but going into college and now getting kicked out and dealing with, walked through a door. I got scars all over my face. Walked through a glass door.
This was in college?
Yeah, my first year. And so I got 70 stitches on my face. My face fell off. And so I'm like, that's 2 weeks into the semester, right? And I'm on the sideline because I just had gotten in a crash on the freeway, got ejected out of a lifted Tundra going 80, 90 miles an hour. And I dislocated my hip. But I walk out of the hospital a few days later, by the grace of God, banged up, but fine. And
these situations, are there like drugs and alcohol involved, or is it just bad luck?
We had been partying out in the desert, but I was sitting shotgun, and we had been driving for about 3 hours. I think he fell asleep. I never asked him, the driver, what happened. Or there was some wind, maybe a mixture of both, but he I woke up, and he goes, and I woke up with the car going like on the freeway, all the glass, and then I woke up way down the road. And I woke up and I went, ugh, and I saw the two guys that were in the car with me all bloody. I think I had my seatbelt on, but like no shoulder, or no seatbelt probably. And then went out and they thought I was dead. So they didn't even come over to me. But and I walk out of the hospital a few days later. I'm the first one out of the hospital, mind you. Pretty unfazed, actually, pretty fine. But that was the start of this that was a sign, I should say, where you'd think that people would pump the brakes, but I really just didn't. And then the real low, though, came to fruition about a year later, where I woke up. Now by this time, had been failed out of 1, pretty much kicked out of 2 junior colleges, playing football and not going, not working, doing drugs. And I woke up and I heard this. I've had a moment of clarity from God. People call it whatever they want. I knew God was speaking to me. And I woke up in this apartment and it was raining. And this homeless guy had said something to me some months before. And he goes, what rain means? Change. And I went, that was the first thing I thought about. And I called my dad, who had been through a lot of lows. And I just felt like the walls were closing in. Like the most lonely, hopeless feeling you could possibly imagine. I'm 19 years old. And I go, I need to change something. So I just literally gave my dad all the drugs I had, all the money, and said, dude, I gotta go. And they put me in I wasn't like detoxing or anything. I was just not living right. And I just had no direction, was rudderless. And no real connection with my faith, no real connection with higher power, even though I had felt like I had been protected through a lot of things. And I got put in like a crazy detox center because it was what worked for the insurance, but it was lockdown facility, crazy people, running naked in the hallways and getting off heroin. And my roommate was a 40-year-old getting off heroin. And I'm 19 going, damn, dude, like I got to get out of here. And that's what I did. And that's when I moved back to Boston and kind of started correcting some things for a couple of years. And I did. And then got transferred back to college and finished up there.
So at that point, I know you said you had that little spark of interest as a child about the Navy SEALs. Yeah. But when you were kind of getting in trouble and all that there in college, getting kicked out, what did you want to do? Or did you have any type of plan or idea?
It's a good question. I always knew I was going to the military. Well, was kind of there always. So I kind of took college not that seriously. But there was a time where I was like, I'm gonna be a doctor. So it was like, maybe I'll go be a military doctor. And that was when I started to kind of get focused. And I got straight A's in advanced subjects for about 2 years, probably about a year and a half to catch up, to actually transfer back to University of California school. So I was pretty locked on. But when I transferred back to University of California, Santa Cruz, I realized that aptitude's a real thing. And I hit multivariable calculus and organic chemistry, advanced organic chemistry, and it was hard. And I was struggling, dude. And I also really wasn't disciplined at this time. I started drinking a lot more and partying and girls, and that whole distraction kind of picked back up. And so I was just struggling. So I changed majors, did a pre-law major. And so I actually finished with like a politics and pre-law, like thinking maybe I'll go into law. Because the truth was this, I wanted to be a Navy SEAL, but it kind of felt like a dream. Like growing up in San Diego, dude, I knew a lot of people, not a lot, a handful of people that tried SEAL training, All-American water polo players, a couple wrestlers, and everybody failed. Nobody made it. And I'm like, damn, dude, like, I'm an okay athlete, but dude, I don't want to end up on a boat. And so getting out of college, I had stacked some problems. A lot of arrests, misdemeanors, DUIs, driving on a suspended. Probably had 17 arrests probably in about 2 years. So no felonies though. Not like pushing grandmas in the street or robbing people, just being an idiot a lot. So when I got out, and I was so immature, man, thinking back, like what was I thinking? I go, hey, I'm gonna go to the Marine Corps. Hey, that'll be cool because at least I'll get a gun and I'll be able to deploy or whatever. And they said no, man. They said they wouldn't even talk to me. They said, dude, you're on probation. You have pending court cases. You're an idiot. You can't even be hitting here, really. So I went to jail. I got a judge to commute my probation. I had 3-year probationary term that he's like, we'll commute if you do 6 months in jail. And I was like, okay. Like, I'm not going to wait 3 years. And so I ended up doing 4. Served about 90, so nothing but a lockdown facility in Bay Area, so shitty. A lot of guys waiting to go to the penitentiary, waiting on court cases. I was the only one really there on misdemeanors at all. But I actually felt good when I was there because it felt like I was clearing some stuff up. And so, but no guarantee that any military would talk to me, or that I could get in. But I had this delusional confidence about where I was going. And I still wanted to be a SEAL, but it still felt like a dream. So I walk out of jail, I go start down this process, Marines again. I talked to the officers. They were like, no, dude, you too many tattoos. They actually turned me down for tattoos. So couldn't do tattoos because of the tattoos. Army said, dude, get the fuck out of here. It's like, dude, your background is just too checkered. We don't
Really, the Army was picking.
Yeah, and so this actually going into another real low point. Dude, when the Army said no, I was right at my mom's house, sleeping on the couch. I'm sleeping in my high school bedroom. I'm 23, fresh out of jail, riding a bike because I had no car. And I remember going, the Army won't even let me in. And I sat on the couch, dude. And if you've ever been, and people watching, ever been in those films where you just feel like hopelessness, that's what I felt like. I was like, the only thing I wanted to do, and I was just assuming it was going to be kind of a no-brainer. Now they're saying no. Pretty much curled in the fetal position, man, for like 2 days, plus or minus, and not literally, but kind of. So I started researching military units that could take me or would. And that's when I came across the Foreign Legion. I probably knew about them a little bit before when I was a kid, just being in that world, being interested in it. But now it came on my radar again. All right, this is a unit that takes guys with checkered pasts. I can serve, but I did have student loans and some real life stuff that I wanted to square away before, you're gonna go over there and pop chalks, and that stuff probably wouldn't happen. So I was like, let me give the United States military one last chance.
Because the Foreign Legion is not the United States.
It's not the United States. You're not going to make a lot of money. It's very, very bare bones on the money. So financially, my student loans were pretty massive. My parents didn't pay for college, so my student loans were massive. They were due. They were coming up on being due, and I wanted to handle that. My mom had co-signed for a couple, and I just didn't want to leave that part, so that was a concern. So I went to the Navy and was like, Hail Mary. I was like, dude, I wrote down all my charges and stuff and gave it to the dude, and he goes, we can work with this. And that was a moment where it was like that super low to high, but it was still really unsure. I still had to get through MEPS. I still had to do a lot of strategic answering, with how I went about it. Not lie, I'm not telling people to lie. I'm saying, you got to answer strategically.
Anybody who's been in the military knows about how to answer those questions.
Strategic answering, yeah, strategic truth.
But so at that point, I know you said you wanted to, get some action in some way or another with maybe a weapon. But at that point, walking into that Navy recruiter office, were you just willing to take any, opportunity?
Here's the interesting piece is I went there to be a SEAL, and they said, dude, you can't even get into the Navy really unless you wrangle shit, as a whatever job or a SEAL. if you can pass all the stuff, because I couldn't be a corpsman. I had drug charges. I had, I couldn't, there was a ton of jobs I was not even open to. So I said, well, good, man, I'm here to be a SEAL. So that works out pretty solid, but I needed a lot of waivers, tattoo waivers, moral conduct waivers, and a few other things. So, and I suggest anybody do this in any capacity. I said, well, who makes the decisions? And he said, well, there's this, it would really help if you get this Naval Special Warfare motivator guy. He's a retired lieutenant commander, and he would run like Vegas, Los Angeles, and they'd give letters of recommendation sometimes. I said, all right, well, I'm gonna go find that guy. I called him on his cell phone, and I went down, I was like, where do you guys train? Where do you guys work out? And so after getting through MEPS, by the skin of my teeth, that was stressful, that I could start taking the SEAL screening test. So I went down there, introduced myself to him, and took the first test and failed. Failed, man. Failed for the run, and just for the run. And dude, it was hard. And I realized, I looked down and they called, Cavanaugh, fail, step back. And I looked down at the line of the failures and I went, I'm never gonna be in this line again. And that's when I got real serious about going down to the Naval Special Warfare Center, training with this group. It was all guys that were pretty motivated. And that took me about 9 months, running up in Pendleton with another active duty SEAL who connected with me back from social media, which was really cool when I was in the Legion. That was badass. And he puking every day. I lost 40 pounds, man, in probably 6-7 weeks. And just taking it, stacking boxes at Home Depot at night, working the graveyard shift, feeling good about stuff. And this is another cool part, because we're talking about those lows and highs. It was interesting. If I think back to one of the most happy times in my life, it was at this time. You're like hopeful. Your life is simple. I have a $500 car.
Had something to look forward to.
And something to look forward to. And you always need something. And I'm like, I was dating this chick at the time. This is something I probably never mentioned, but I was dating this chick at the time, and she was like, her mom was like, what does this guy even do? He's a loser. He lives at his mom's house and he's working at Home Depot. But she didn't know I was training for SEALs, right? And my girl at the time, she was like, oh, he's training. She's like, oh, sure, whatever. It just goes to show you that people from the outside in, nobody knows your level of fortitude or vision. Nobody knows what you're trying to do. And so from the outside in, it doesn't matter. It's what feels good in your heart. External validation, as we'll get into, is futile. That is a very dangerous thing to seek. So don't worry about it. You got to feel good about what you're doing, and when you lay your head on the pillow. Those simple days were some of the best days of my life. And lo and behold, 9 months later, they call me and said I got my SEAL contract, and I shipped out on that. And this was February 2010 timeframe. Give people kind of a timeline.
I guess to kind of back up a little bit, what, I guess, drove you to want to be a SEAL so much? Was it just like that achievement?
No, that's actually a good question, man. Everyone's got their own reasons. And some people will be like, man, I really want to try the hardest thing. That's not really why I wanted to do it. I wanted to do it because it was the most badass thing I could think of. And I liked the edginess of them. It was, the Vietnam guys opping in jeans, and the amount of agency they had, the amount of autonomy they had was interesting to me. I never really wanted to be in the military, rank and file. I had no desire for that. Which is what's interesting about SEALs. It's a group of guys that didn't, and Green Berets also, it's a group of guys that didn't really want to be in the military, right? But they want to do military operations. Different, right? And there's different types of guys in the military that love all the Kool-Aid and drinking and love their uniform. I could care less. They have a saying in the SEAL teams, man, always attempt to never wear a uniform, but when you have to, look amazing, look perfect, right? And that's part of it, man, is, I like that level of agency. It proved to be very true. I really enjoyed the SEAL teams, which we'll get into.
Everyone always likes to hear any Hell Week stories, if you have any.
Oh, dude. Bro, Buds, people ask me about Buds was harder than I ever thought it would be. 100%, dude. It was carnage. We got there, we flew out from Chicago with 400 people, or Great Lakes, flew from Great Lakes with 400 people. Dude, we finished all the way through that class from that original 400 with 13 guys. So it was 100 went away right away when we got there. They didn't really want to be SEALs. They just want a better duty station. And so they realized that in Bud's prep. Fine. So it was about 285 we're really classed up with, and 100 were gone after the first 3 weeks of indoc. Who knows where they all go? It's like all the names and stuff. And then we went through, and by Hell Week, we were at 48. And so, but even from that, dudes had such bad chafing or needed skin grafts or had injuries that they got rolled back. So it wasn't that a group of that 48 didn't finish, they just got rolled back. But the people that went through all the way and graduated buds and became, SQT were about like 13 guys. I was one of them. So some of it's luck, some of it's preparation, some of it's just genetic bone density and some other things. My feet, getting into the Hell Week piece, dude, were so messed up going into after the first week. Dude, I had a boot that was a half size too small, and I have like wide hobbit feet, dude, and so I needed a wide boot, but I got a narrow boot that was too small, and I did not have sock liners in it. Dude, I got MRSA on the top of my feet. I have scars all over the top of my feet from sand must have got in there or something. There was a Friday, and I could not get my feet in my boots. They were so swollen, and I was like, what am I gonna do? I couldn't even cut them and get them in. They was so bad. So I'm like, I have them completely unlaced, and I'm like running to food, and a dude who's still opping my best friends is still opping at the tip of the spear right now. And if people know what I'm talking about, and he goes, dude, you got to go to medical. And I can't. It's where all the quitters are going. I can't go to medical. And he goes, you can't do buds without shoes on. I was like, damn. And so I ran there, and the instructors looking at us. This was right before Hell Week. And they're looking at it. He goes, all you, saying every name in the book, you losers. And he goes, y'all just pretending. He looks at my feet. He goes, whoa. He goes, go to the medical right now, or go to the doctor. So I'm like, dude. So I'm running across the grinder barefoot, and the doctor sees him, and he goes, dude, you're no way you're going in it. There's no way. And this was me, dude. This was, I swear, a prayer from God, dude. I get the chills when I think about this, because he goes, you could soak your feet this weekend, put this medicated stuff, but you got to come back in here on Monday, and I'm going to roll you. I said, just don't roll me yet. Just let me come in on Monday. I said, please. He looked at me and he said, all right. I went back that weekend, and I soaked my feet, and I prayed to God. I go, just please get my feet on, just please. Dude, by Monday morning, they were like, it was like healed. Not perfect. And that weekend I went to a military surplus store and bought an old pair. I still have this pair in my shadow box of wide, broken in, like Bates, same style boots. And I wore them, dude, and I got through. Never had a problem since, dude. And it was like a prayer. I never went back to the medical on Monday when they said come back. I just never went back, dude. But Hell Week was hard, dude. A lot of your hip flexors are everyone's hunched over, yet you're freezing for so long, but really cool moments too, which people don't talk about, is like these like magical, weird moments where you're kind of hallucinating and you're kind of lucid, but in this weird state, and dudes are falling out of boats, just like rowing and falling, and dudes are swimming out hamburgers to you from previous classes. It's interesting times, man, but then you finish it, it's a pretty incredible feeling.
So the closest you got to quitting was when you were having your issues with your feet?
Well, I wouldn't have quit, but I wanted to quit every day. Every day. But I never thought about actually quitting. I thought I couldn't do it. So that was something different. Like usually in the runs, because I'm not a great runner. And I would say I'm a good enough runner to be a Navy SEAL. Take that for what it is. But I was hurting on all the long distance runs, and every step felt faster than I could possibly be running for that long. And I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can do this, and so I was more like self-doubt. And before O courses and things, like, dude, I don't know if I can pass this one, and swimming was fine. Swimming was always my strength, which was good. But I had a lot of self-doubt. Never thought about quitting. I was terrified of failing more than actually quitting. I felt like I I had painted myself into a corner, man. I really thought it was my only option. And I couldn't even make enough money in the regular military to pay off my student loans, really. So I was like, dude, I gotta do this and make this, or I just didn't even leave myself an option. Yeah.
We'll go into what your career looked like as a SEAL. I know you mentioned that one story, the kind of crazy one, in other podcasts about how you almost drowned.
Yeah. Yeah, we've had some, dude, it was, I really hit a good wave going in. We came at it a good time. Dudes were coming back from Afghanistan, from 7. The culture there at the time was good. Culture's changed now, right? And I'll even have team guys, younger guys who are in at right now who go, dude, it's a little bit different. Think about it. The guys that were coming in, it was all wartime. Iraq, Afghanistan, they were actively engaged, so there was not a lot of bullshit, right? There wasn't a lot of dog and ponies and this and that. It was about work and training, and if it wasn't that, they were like, get out of here and go handle your life business. So when I got back, I hit a really good wave of volunteering for schools, getting schools, hit JTAC comms, sniper really quickly as a new guy. And in between there, I got to go down to the G20 summit where I almost drowned. We're doing some things for Obama, some maritime extraction force stuff. Huge storm came in and I went in the drink. But I was living it. I realized, man, this is real life now. When I almost drowned, going, I totally didn't see this coming, and this is no longer training, and this is real life. It was good. It was a good wake-up call. Not that I wasn't taking it seriously, but that the thing that you don't see coming is what gets you. That's really what, I wish I would have taken that in my personal life. I took it in my professional, but we went to Yemen, 7-month deployment there, came back, went to Iraq, and in this chunk of time is when I started to hit some kind of friction moments where I had some real low points. I started to get what I call speed wobbles. Speed wobbles, man, we're getting a little bit ahead of your skis, the momentum's picking up. I was always really locked on there early, training, was staying late, had a lot of responsibility. But I go to a training trip, I hit a guy in a bar, right? But there's also signs. Before that, I had a guy right before this trip where I was coming kind of burning in from the weekend, and he's like, dude, you got to slow down. That's what he said to me out in the parking lot. And I was like, I'm good, dude. Who's this guy? I won't say his name, but he was a teammate of mine that I had gone up. Yeah, a teammate of mine. He's like, dude, you got to slow down, man. He's like, you're going a million miles an hour. And he's a dude that's been up in the highs and lows, right? And I'm like, I got it, dude. And the minute you think you got it, you don't got it. It was that a few days later, dude, I hit a guy in a bar, and I was on a date in a steakhouse and at a bar it wasn't like some party. So long story short, I have an aggravated assault. Now things are starting to get serious, right? It was my first serious felony charge. So I have aggravated assault, GBH, gross bodily harm, broke his orbital eye socket. So I'm in jail, man. I have to get bailed out by another SEAL. Shout out, Chad. Love you, man. And
so while you were in that cell, what was going through your mind?
Man, because I was coming out, I was blacked out when that happened, right? Or browning out, so I was emotionally responsive, just completely, I was not in the right? I wasn't a victim in the situation, right? Regardless of whatever how the situation transpired. I had made my own decisions, right? And I didn't remove myself from the situation when I should have earlier. So now I'm in this cell. Now I'm in orange. Now I'm sitting there and I get taken up on the screen for indictment, arraignment. And they're saying, hey, this guy's a Navy SEAL. He's got guys from his command out in the back, and everyone in the cell kind of looks at me, and I'm going, and I was sitting there going, bro, my whole world's done. Done. I have a felony. You can't have a felony with a top secret clearance, man. I don't know if people are aware, but I have a top secret clearance at the time, which not every SEAL has, so because we had went to Yemen, we needed it, which is a whole other thing getting through that, right, with my background. So I was had been given all these gifts. The fact I was even a SEAL even there was a miracle.
After everything you worked
After everything. And it wasn't like I got it taken away. I gave it away. That was the worst part. I gave it away, dude. After I had people warning me along the way, and I had warned myself. So I get picked up, and they take me, back to the hotel, and they go, just post up here. So long story, dude, that was a rough couple days, bro. I get in texts from the command. People were like, hey, dude, keep your head up type things. But I was like, oh, man, dude, I am so just bottomed out, hurting, that visceral type of pain. And coming out, now I'm pulled out of the platoon. And just to kind of expedite this a little bit, months later, I get a good lawyer, really good connection, expensive but good.
How did your teammates talk to you throughout this process? Were they like, man, you screwed up bad, or were they supportive?
Well, it was the first time, right? And it was a fight. And so it was me punching, and they had it on video. And so in my board, I have all the leadership, and they're like, oh, so it's on video where it's aggressive, but you're in a SEAL community, and they're not like, probably if I would have gotten my ass kicked, it would have been worse. So it was actually, in the SEAL community, they didn't care, right? They were like, dude, don't get in trouble. Be smart about this shit. They cared more about me being pulled out, and now they're having to deal with more shit. And that's the worst part of it, right? It's mission readiness, and now you're taken away from mission readiness. That's more what it's about. Becoming a burden. So that was what I was getting grilled for. Less than the action, right? But, actions have consequences. And so I get actually put back with the platoon to train pretty quickly after they see the court cases kind of getting kicked down the thing. But, dude, my plea deal was 6 years in prison plus 3 parole. That's what they were sticking with. And I'm getting sued for $500,000. So I have a civil case, this going on. I'm dealing with massive amount of pressure. The team writes a letter, this is some months later, and I deploy to Iraq on bail. They go, dude, we need disqualifications, go to Iraq. I go, just please get me to deployment. I would have died, dude, I would have felt so bad if I would have missed that deployment, but I made it. And now I'm on a helicopter, and I remember flying from Baghdad up to south of Mosul, and just me and another guy at night getting dropped off at this spot. I remember looking out at the ground, dude, and there's small arms fire and these different villages and stuff. It's not crazy hot, but just little stuff going on. And I'm like, man, thank God I'm here. And I remember having this moment of well, at least if I die out here, I don't have to go back and deal with that shit. And that was the truth, man. I really felt that. And that deployment, though, was stressful. We were meeting with the Sunni tribal fighters and who had been displaced by ISIS and on the forward line of troops and kind of prepping for the Mosul offensive. And that was what we were going on. And it was stressful. It was definitely kind of weighing on me, knowing that coming back home, dude, I was facing a jury trial, man. I had some low moments on that roof, taking watch on the roof at 3 a.m, smoking these little cigarettes. They had these little Korean cigarettes, and I'm smoking these little Korean cigarettes going, oh man, I volunteered to stay out there longer. I thought about joining the Kurdish Peshmerga and just not going back. Crazy thoughts, not realistic thoughts, but that's how my mind was going. I just did not want to come back, man, and deal with that. I didn't want to face the music, but I ended up having to come back, man.
Did you have any combat stories that you'd like to share, or anything on these deployments?
Dude, it was an interesting deployment because we're at the forward line of troops. We're technically, advise and assist, not a company, technically, right? But we're taking orders. They're shooting Katyusha rockets at us, and so it was we're putting up HESCO walls and stringing. We had no base. Both places I've been to, no base. I've never been to a place where we're eating off the local economy, really. We're putting up walls by hand because we didn't have, and now we're changing out up-armored vehicles, dude. We had up-armored G-Wagon, low-profile vehicles. And so we're really just building out this small base while trying to kind of consolidate the Sunni tribal fighter groups. I was a tribal lead, so I was meeting with the sheikh, with his people, drinking tea and smoking cigarettes and trying to get his 200 guys down to, we got about a 60-man force. And so then doing small ops to get them approved and dropping casts and building target packages. And we'd take shots and they'd shoot at us with dishkas when we're on the berm and stuff. So, but we're not kicking doors to kind of it's like trench warfare, right? Spread across with a no man's land that's mined to kind of like give you a, and we had some, more sketchy stuff with our partner forces, stepping on IEDs, going across and blowing their legs off, and so that's the scene. It was this kind of a stalemate type thing, but then we're building target packages and dropping bombs on their little strongholds. So building pattern of life packages, and so we could develop targets for aircraft. That was a lot of it. So coming back from that, I'm like packing up and going, damn, dude, well, this is going down. I have a ex-girlfriend that I find out when I come back is smoking heroin, right? Who I had moved in with my mom's house, who is like stealing shit pretty much. And so it was amazing. It was crazy to see somebody, kind of fall that hard. So that's kind of going on, but that was almost honestly a blip on the radar from what I had coming. It felt like a tidal wave, because if facing prison, honestly, they gave me a simple decision, because I didn't care about the prison time. That was not what I was worried about. I was worried about getting a felony. So if they were going to keep it as a felony, I'll take it all the way to the box. I was committed to it, because if a felony I would lose my trident. So up, all leading to, I'm like burning in, kind of. I was out partying the night before. I feel like I'm walking the plank. I'm in my dress blues, like sitting on the toilet, man, and I get a call from my lawyer. I'm supposed to meet him in like 30 minutes. He goes, hey, we got a deal for you. And I'm going, he goes, you got to pay all the restitution in full, all this stuff, but they'll keep it as a misdemeanor, but maxed out, right? So 4 years formal probation, all these things. I have interstate compact transfer requirement. I'm like, fine. Misdemeanor I can deal with. Let's do it. So I pretty much write this guy my whole Iraq check, sold my truck, but I was honestly fine with that. Serve some time. So I take vacation. I do like 2-3 weeks in county up in Idaho, and come back, but I have some real stringent requirements. No drinking alcohol tests. I have probation officer. I can't really leave the city without approval, but I'm a Navy SEAL, or I can't own a weapon. And so it's like, they were looking past a lot of it at the beginning. And I was following all the things, and I was really good for like 30 days. It was like, and then the devil comes calling, just the distraction. I was kind of have my stuff together, and I felt good. I felt like free again. Man, dude, and I was like trying, but I had no. JC, who you've interviewed before, says something good when I really like you. I was trying to be good, but I didn't know how. Just so well said. I really didn't know how to live right. I was disciplined-ish, which was dangerous. So I was, it's not like I was off doing drugs and doing crazy stuff all the time, but I was just go a little hard when we would go, and I tapered that back. So I'm like, oh, I'm good. I'm in this wheelhouse, but I really needed to be perfect, technically, right, to actually make this thing work. And I thought good was good enough. I get into another altercation at a.
So you're still in the teams?
Oh yeah, I'm just back in it, back in the flow, actually getting promoted, back on a promotion, and back on the full upswing, right, after all this stuff. And I'm like I'm getting an LPO slot for the next year, and I'm like, all my stuff's coming back. Top secret clearance back, all the stuff is coming back at once.
So you're climbing back up that ladder.
I'm climbing back up, dude. And here's how like fast this stuff was slipping. The weekend I get, this is a story I never said, but it's like the weekend I get my top secret security clearance back. I go up to LA. I'm like training with some people up in LA and stuff and working out. And then I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go to the Roosevelt Hotel where I'm staying. I meet this girl, meet this other girl, and one of them, I guess, had been doing adult films or whatever. I didn't really know her. But she's like, hey, hanging out. We're all kind of hanging out. She's in my hotel room, and she pretty much is ODing. And I'm like the only one there, and I saved her life, really. But she's like coming to, and I remember like shock therapy her and stuff. I don't know what she had done, but she's like, and I'm going, and I'm like, I saved her life. And it just means she like comes to. But I remember when it was like questionable what was going to happen. And I go, dude, and I'm looking at, talking to myself, but talking with God, going, I am just I don't know why I do this, like why I put myself in these situations. Like I can't keep doing this. But I remember having that real clear moment. And then she kind of comes to and is fine, is super thankful and is like apologetic, but like was very, very thankful. I'm like, yeah, it's like, I don't know if I wasn't here, what would have happened, right? But that moment, I remember being like, dude, you have it all right here and you just gave it away, right? Because imagine the cops come, it's all in shambles again. And so I come back from that. It was like kind of a sobering experience. And I just remember being like, dude, I got to be very careful about where I put myself. And so I thought I was. And I'm like, I'm only going to put energy into people that I want to date seriously and whatever. And I did that. And I'm on this date with this chick who I'm very serious about. And it was perfect. And and I felt so happy. This was months later, right? I remember the day before taking a shower. I'm like this, the music's going, and I went, dude, this is the happiest I've ever been. The happiest I'd ever been. I have a succinct, very clear moment where I had this thought. I am like falling in love with this new girl, and I'm going on a date with her finally, and it had been, and I'm going, wow. And we go on this date, and I get too drunk. I hop in a golf cart, it's the counties, and I get arrested, right? And it turns into a whole thing, tasers and dogs, and because I try to get away. And so I'm fighting off a dog, it turns into snowballs. And Jimmy Buffett's playing in the background in this, and how fast, and this was the next day, right? The next day when I had that high to low. And now, you want to talk about a low. We talk about lows, right? This is way lower than I had been. The lowest. I think the lowest point of my life up to this point had been right there. And I'm in jail, all cut up, no shirt, in downtown San Diego, where I had been multiple times. And I remember, and I'm just bleeding, man, from getting tackled, but in the parking lot by the cops and tased and all the things. And I'm going, I bail out, which I barely could. I did really fast, but even though I was on probation, I shouldn't have been able to, but I had good credit and money. I still was like successful on that side. Like was good with money and things, and all this was gonna end up getting smashed into smithereens after all this though. And I bail out, and my sister picked me up. My sister picked me up, who was married to a SEAL at the time. And she's driving me back up to this hotel I had, or I had to go get my stuff. And she goes, this is it, huh? And it was just quiet. And I went, yeah. And she goes, this is the end of it. She goes, this one feels different. Like this fuck up feels different. And I go, yeah, this is the nail in the coffin of my SEAL career, for sure. And so I knew that moment was game changer. And I went, and then of course, the snowball is avalanches falling. I'm getting blown up by the team. I have sensitive gear that I was going to be going on a training trip the next day. And so I go drug test, and the team's mustered. I passed the drug test, and then Navy JAG sends up the request for performance enhancing drug test, and I fail that, right? And so I get popped, and I have an administrative guy come out one day. Now I'm pulled out of the platoon and I'm dealing with this. So, low point. Still getting sued from the stuff 2 years ago. That's still going on. So I'm still fighting that case. I'm on probation, formal probation for a violent crime. So now I violated that with another violent crime. So I have federal marshals looking to extradite me out of California, an active duty Navy SEAL. I have warrants. I have new charge that I'm dealing with, which is, whatever it is. I have 3 lawyers and two lawyers and three lawyers in 2 states on, and I'm just hemorrhaging cash. I'm just getting, and I remember I would have to go check in the team, and then they're like, hey, go handle your business, because they knew I had a lot going on. I went and sat in my car in the passenger seat, just in the passenger seat of my Honda Civic I had owned, or whatever, Toyota Camry at the time, because I had to sell my truck. And I remember sitting in the passenger seat, getting crushed by life, just crushed. the girl was gone at the time, so I like everything just taken away from that pinnacle of happy moment. So low. And when you're at those low moments, all you have is prayer, man. All you have is prayer. And I really just like leaned in going, I know I've done all this to myself. I was not blaming anybody. That was one thing I was pretty good at, but I didn't know how to use the accountability yet. I could take accountability, but I didn't know how to use it to actually change what I was doing, this like perpetual self-sabotage. And people watching are like, dude, what the hell are you doing? Like, bro, it's back to back. Yeah, I know. Trust me, I was living it. But there was a lot of successes in between, and there was a lot of time in between. And so you forget, I'm still opping, I'm still getting a lot of accolades and doing a lot of positive things, working out every day. I'm still doing all these things. And so there was like these major mess ups that would just destroy everything. And that's why I didn't have clarity on it. But that led, now I'm out. I mean, they're pushing me out. I mean, it's pretty clear. And so I pretty much just string this along, finally get my lawyer to make me serve some time. I get it cleared up, but I go back to jail and I'm out of the military.
What were your leaders like in the team saying to you? Did they kind of just like not have any grace left for you? Or like, you're reaping what you're sowing? Or they like?
They were good with me. The commanding officer, I had to get my trident pulled, right? Because it's conduct. So I have my trident pulled, and in that meeting, it was just the commanding officer and the master chief and another dude. And he goes, "Are you gonna be okay? Like, you gonna kill yourself or something?" Like, he was asking me that, and I went, "No." I was like, "No." He's like, "What are you gonna do?" I said, "I think I'm gonna do what I've done my whole life. I'm gonna take it on the chin and put my head up on my shoulders back." And the master chief, he's like, "Dude, it makes me want to tear up, dude." Hearing that, he's like, "Bro, like, it's all you can do." And they shook my hand and I walked out. It wasn't like they were making me sweep the floor or take the, they were like, dude, they knew I knew how much of a fuck up this was. There's nobody needed, but I did have calls from teammates going, "Dude, you got a problem, man." I had a good teammate. He's like, "Dude, you got a problem, man. You got to get this shit squared away." I'm like, "Yeah, dude," and I was getting good direction, but now I was off on my own. I stayed contact, but I was kind of doing my own thing, getting this squared away and trying to prep my next step.
So within the teams, even though you're making these major mistakes, in your free time, within the teams, you're doing your job.
Oh man, I was locked on, and I was getting successes, and on the field, I was good. Out in the field, I was good. I knew my jobs. I was and I was just this off the field variable, right?
So you weren't a sandbagger, or the other word.
I would push hard, and I was always in good shape. I was just up early training. I loved being at work. I really did, and I just really loved being out partying hard too. It's like I liked the powerful nature of it, but I didn't understand that to be actually good at work, you got to be good off the field too, right? Because it affects. There's not like these separate warehouses of life. And this is a deeper meaning of what I've come to understand is nothing's in its own warehouse. Everything's connected. Closed doors, open doors. God's got a ledger, man, right? It's this karma. You don't have to be pushing grandmas in the street to stack bad karma. You could just not be living your best life. And every time I, did this, I knew I shouldn't. I had that authentic voice of God saying, "Hey, dude, go to bed early, man. You don't gotta, keep." I would be like, yeah, well, later, and boom, and it's like, it's all good till it's not.
So this time you've lost your trident, you're out of the Navy. I'm curious, did you ever think about, I know you were disappointed in yourself, but did it take up a lot of mental space thinking about what other people were thinking about in regards to your life?
No, I didn't have time. It wasn't that I was all wrapped up in myself. I was sad for having ruined opportunities. I was mad at myself for not being able to go on that next deployment because we were gearing up to go to Iraq again. I was right at the tail end, about ready to go again. And so I was, sad to be out of the platoon, but I really took that energy and focused right into, where I was walking next to, because I didn't process it though, which is different. turning away from it and processing it are two different things. And I had totally turned away from it and been like, well, that's done, and didn't really own it, and went into residential real estate development, working as a supervisor. We did a lot of huge, massive projects. I had my relationship with the same girl that I had been on that date with, and so I had come back and we're like living together, and so I started this whole new life. But now with the governor off and no like checks and balances, I'm like taking Adderall, smoking weed every day, you know, Xanax at night to kind of chill out, but I'm working, not during work, right? Adderall in the morning to get going and crushing work, and then coming back and smoking weed and sipping, because why not? It's like I'm not training for anything, but I would be sipping vodka in the gym, doing, you know, in my shaker. It was like reasonable to me in some capacity. I don't know, I would always had my thing. If it was 5 o'clock here, you know, type thing, like right after work. And then about a year after that, then I started taking painkillers, right? Fentanyl too, if I could get it, right? And so now I'm working for a venture capitalist in a different venture, pitching decks, doing stuff in the cannabis industry and building out a facility and trying to do all these things and moving and shaking, or thinking I am, but having terrible habits, right? And the speed wobbles start to kind of get super strong.
And I understand how a lot of people may do like cocaine or Adderall for, you know, productive reasons, but getting into the painkillers and stuff, what gave you that idea?
Brother, I'll tell you exactly the moment when I did. So the relationship was very tumultuous. And so people that know, if you're in a tumultuous, chaotic relationship, it's all consuming, and it really takes a lot of bandwidth. And so this was up and down. And I'm not saying anyone's at fault. I'm saying probably me more at fault. I wasn't living, as men, we lead from the front. If we're not living our best life, dude, it trickles down from us. And so I was very emotionally responsive and just not correct. And we had broken up, and now it's everything's taken out of the house. And I remember being in my car and like hurting so much. People say, oh, I got into painkillers because I hurt myself. Dude, I didn't. I got into it because I wanted to get high. 100%. I did not get into it because I hurt myself and got addicted. I got addicted because I wanted to get addicted, right? Not wanted to get addicted, but wanted that feeling. So I called my drug dealer. I'm like, hey, dude, do you have any stuff? He said, yeah. And so, you know, because I had been in that world, and just being I knew a lot of people in that world. And so I did, man, and took the Percocets and was just, and I would do that at night just to kind of taper off. Not like all day, and I wasn't doing them, just a little. That's the lie. That's how the devil gets itself into you. It's like, it's just a little bit, dude. Who cares, right? It's not, if you're still going to work, you're still doing really well. And I was on this upward trajectory in another capacity. Now I'm in a high rise, doing well. And that went on for about a year. So I'm doing all that stuff every day for about a year. And not sleeping a lot. Now the speed wobble started coming back. That relationship had come back. Now there's a lot of investments and things coming in, and I was trying to do a lot, trying to do too much, and I just crashed and burned, dude. Just pretty much just psychologically crashed. The relationship was done. It would all just crumbled as it does, and I left the situation, was pretty much fired and, you know, told to leave in not so many words.
So what was the straw on the camel's back specifically?
Dude, I did a line, and I was on like kind of a work trip area, was on doing some stuff, but I hit my head. My girl comes in, I'm bleeding, she's yelling. Now I go to the ER, I get stitched up, and it, not that caused something specifically, but it was just the wrong people knew, and now they're like, dude, this dude's losing it. Now he's like falling and hitting himself, and you know, I look like a fucking pincushion with all the scars all over my face from all the stuff in my life, but that was it. It was like, okay, man. And the VC boss at the time, he goes, dude, you were an asset, now you're a liability. And that was a really powerful thing that I have remembered since that moment. Dude, I felt like I wanted to cry, dude, when I heard that, because as maybe I have some insecurity in me or something, or like I always want to be valuable to people and I don't want to be disliked. You know, I definitely probably have that. And hearing that you're a liability, man, you're not even an asset. He goes, you were my biggest asset and now you're my biggest liability. I was like, just crushed, and separated myself from that situation. I was like, I got to kind of change what I'm doing. And I left the city and went to a different place. I actually went to the big island of Hawaii, where he's like, hold tight, and then we might have some other business, ventures for you to get into for us out there. Never came to fruition. And so then I'm just out there and I run out of money and find myself homeless in my car like 3 months later.
On the big island.
On the big island, man, in the jungle, man, way down there by the volcanoes erupting. And I had gotten off the painkillers by design. I separated myself to where I had no, and kind of some interesting spiritual experiences out there. I don't know if I was losing my mind or maybe gaining it, but I got off the first month of the first week I was there, and dude, that was rough. People who have gotten off that had it. I thought I wasn't addicted, dead serious. I had these like few days where I wouldn't do them, but I would have these like withdrawal symptoms, but I didn't know what they were, right? I just wasn't really like connecting the dots. Now I was about a week in and I'm like 3, 4, 5 days, no sleep. I could not sleep. My body was just wanting to crawl out of its skin. And I'm trying to do everything to weather the storm. Finally come out of it, have some clarity, body starts healing. I'm still sipping on vodka pretty much every day and doing Adderall and stuff, but shed that part. And purposeless. This was a really painful time in my life, actually. This was one of the most painful chunks of time I've ever had in my life, was actually there. You can be in heaven and be in absolute hell. I was in Hilo, Hawaii, so I'm living out there. I'm kind of waiting for the next thing, and emails kind of get cut off, and now I'm changed my phone number to and now I'm alone, man. And it wasn't so much the isolation as what was I doing? Like, where was I building? I mean, I just was waiting for something that wasn't coming, and I had this moment where I went, dude, why don't I go in the Foreign Legion? I had this moment, I go, what? And I look around and I had this like well of hope come into me of like, oh, dude, there's nothing holding me back. I got no kids. I would have gone to the Legion before, but I had a girlfriend and a job. So I thought it was kind of irresponsible. Now I'm like, dude, I don't have nothing now. Oh, and then I went, okay, I'm going to put that on the side. And that if I don't have some things organized by this date, then I'm going to go. And I did. I ended up setting it there. And in that time, dude, I was like having these guidances to like the Bible and seeing scriptures in places. I don't know if I was losing it or what, dude, but I had this stuff guiding me to the book of Enoch. I didn't know what it was. And then I felt like there was people I was encountering that were it was wild. I still to this day think back, dude, and I've really tried to analyze that, and I still haven't come to like a real answer about it. But I was having some really powerful moments. There was something transformative happening, and I had this vision of I actually had met this homeless kid, and it was right when I got off of the painkillers and stuff. I stopped to just ask him if he had some weed. This is why. I go, hey, dude, do you have any weed? He goes, yeah, I have some dabs or whatever. He goes, can you give me a ride? I said, yeah. Well, you can give me a ride. Where do you need to go? He goes, dude, I got to go way up to this like taro farm, right? Way up in this valley. He goes, do you need 4-wheel drive though to get there? I'm like, all right, dude. And so by chance that morning, I had a rental car and I went, dude, I want to go get something 4-wheel drive. Dead serious. And I went down and they changed me out for a 4-wheel drive Nissan truck. I picked this guy up. He goes, you got to go down there. And he took me down into Waipeo Valley. People that are familiar, it's the steepest residential street in all of the United States. It's steep. You can't even drive down it anymore. It's illegal. People who don't live down there. And I was going down this thing and it's pitch black. Mind you, it's like midnight. And I'm going, oh man, dude. And I'm like, where am I going? Go down and then it's like quiet. I hear this river going. We drive across this river. I drop him off for the night. But on the way there, he gave me LSD. Gave me a tab of LSD. And I'm going, let's give it to me, man. Whatever. And so I take it. Dude, I had a like vision from, people call it whatever they want, but I had this crazy vision of like my tattoos getting finished, Foreign Legion going, and like all this stuff tying in. And then when I got back to my apartment, I was seeing this stuff again and again, and I'm like, still clear, not like out of my mind, but just like, okay. And then I knew what I needed to do. I knew what I needed to do. And when it all came crashing down and I'm in this, but I had kind of forgotten it after a couple months, right? That stuff, I'm like, I know I'm going to the Foreign Legion, but let me try to figure out my life type thing. Now I'm homeless in my car. I have a sawed-off shotgun next to me. Talk about a low point. No money, no anything, no food, no water. I just sat in my car and walked around and thought about killing myself, or how I'm going to do this, or just how terrible I felt, and have nothing. And I realized, dude, had that moment of clarity from God going, dude, this is your fault, fix it. Don't leave destruction in your pathway, in your wake, to your mom, your sister, because you made a bunch of selfish choices. Nut up, grab your nuts, and get going. And I went, all right, I'm gonna join the Foreign Legion. This is the time. So that's what I did, man. I called my mom. I had like the gas on E, $6 in my account. I didn't want to drive my car because I didn't want it to like run out of gas. And so I had just been sitting there waiting for like a phone call or something, and it never came. But the call I got was from God, dude. And it was, dude, sack up, go handle some shit, go get yourself cleaned up. I smelled like a homeless guy. And that's what I did, man. I told my mom, hey, I have a plan. I don't want you to worry, but I'm at a rock bottom. But if this is a rock bottom, this is probably about as good as a rock bottom as you could have, right? So I took some fast cash loans out and organized my life and took a flight to France, man.
How old are you at this time?
How old? 34. So I had no spring chicken. So now I'm going into boot camp, infantry boot camp at 34.
What is the process to even, like, do you reach out to the Foreign Legion? Like,
No.
What is that process?
You don't. So the only way, people that are familiar, it's a foreign fighter unit that's a military branch of France, right? It's a couple hundred years old for the expedited cliff notes of what it is. You show up and knock on the door like the Wizard of Oz, and a guy opens the door with a green beret and a gun, a guy on watch, and tells you to give them your passport and hop on the pull-up bar. This is pretty much exactly how it happened for me. I went in on a Sunday night, Hunter's full moon. Man, it was raining, and I was like, this is exactly, dude, leading up to that, meaning at France when I touched down, I flew from Hawaii to France. So it's sunny, nice, I land, it's pouring rain and gray, and I went, what am I doing? And I'm running on fumes for money, so I get a hostel, and I'm like, cleansing out my system because it's the military, they're gonna drug test you. I had weed in my system, and I'm going, all right, running, and I ran up to the Sacré-Cœur, which is the church the Catholic church on top of the hill in Paris. And there was these nuns singing. And you could walk in, and it was just cloudy, and I walked up there, and I was hurting so bad, man. And I went in there and I sat. I still have pictures from when I was in there. I took pictures the day I was in there of just the church and everything. And I sat in there, man, and they were singing. And I just went, God, I don't know what I'm doing, man, but just look out for me. I'm going in tomorrow. Just help me out. And the next day I went in, and I took my train out there and knocked on the door and went into that selection process. And I didn't see that passport again for 3 years. Until I got my real name back, because you get a fake name and operate under a fake name. You do IQ tests and physical tests, Interpol background checks, psychological evaluations, kind of a Gestapo interrogation interview. And then that whole process is about a month before you go to boot camp.
Oh, wow. So I assume boot camp was the most difficult part of
Bro, dude, I hadn't run seriously in a long time, like seriously run. I mean, even in the SEAL teams, we'll run, and you got to stay mobile, but it's like sprints and stuff. You're not running like 12, 13, 14, 15 miles, which is what they're doing in the Foreign Legion. I started prepping when I knew I was going to go, so I had like a week. So I'm like running around the high school track, like gassing. I'm heavy. I still stayed active, and I was always working out. But dude, we were running half marathons in the morning on a piece of bread and coffee, and in the French countryside. Beautiful. They send you to the farm, which is like the first kick in the nuts, and you're on a farm, like a real like out rustic farm. Everything's in French. Guys from all over the world. I mean, just in my class, we had Colombia, Thailand, South Africa, Chad, Cote d'Ivoire, bunch from Ukraine, bunch from Nepal, Romania, Hungary, Japan, you know, full spectrum. We've got one American, me. And you had a guy from, I think maybe one guy from England, and a couple other European and African countries. But that was pretty much the spread, man.
Sounds like a scene from The Expendables, that movie.
Bro, it's wild, dude. It's really, they take everyone from 17 and a half to 39 and a half. So that's the cutoff. You 17 and a half to 39 and a half, you come on that door, come knock on that door, and they'll take you in. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, you go knock on that door. It's 2 separate bases. They have some satellite recuperation facilities, but they don't really do pre-selection there. They'll kind of group guys up like on the border of Germany and, you know, on the border towns, and then they'll kind of take you to these 2 locations, Fort Nugent and Oban, and which is the kind of the pre-selection centers. And then everybody goes through selection at the headquarters, which is in Oban, which is, they put us on a train from Paris. And I had a bunch of guys from, you know, Belarus, we're all fighting in Ukraine now, who I had gone with. I actually just got off the phone with a dude that I was in that boot camp thing there with yesterday. He's been fighting in Ukraine for 2 years.
I definitely want to speak on more on that, Ukraine specifically, in a little bit. But what are some things that they'll disqualify people for?
Big teeth, feet, eyes, right? On the medical side, and on the criminal side, any serious arms trafficking, drug trafficking, kidnappings, sexual crimes, no go, right? And those are pretty much the big ones. You can squeak through it, most other shit for the most part. A lot of drug charges or something they're gonna have an issue with because it shows a pattern, or drug convictions, that'll be, are pretty much no go.
What are the similarities between Buds and the process of the boot camp in the Foreign Legion?
Buds is it's its own animal, and then this is like infantry boot camp, right? So a little bit different of a kind of an apples and oranges thing. Buds is a lot longer, and I would say harder physically, just because of the quantity and volume and just the way stuff is. It's more of a psychological issue, in the psychological problem paired with the physical. Cold as shit in the Foreign Legion. Cold in the water, right? But when you're done with work, you like, you know, you have a hard day at Buds, you might have a night evolution, but you're like kind of getting your stuff together, and the Foreign Legion, dude, you just got no time like that. It's different, like I said, but at the farm, we were freezing, dude. We're in the French Pyrenees with not a lot of gear, not a very minimal type, you know, military, you're in cold weather gear, really, and you're friggin' cold, man, standing outside, but that's pretty par for the course. Any guys that have been in the Legion, you're cold a lot.
So was there any moments where you thought about quitting?
No. Once again, where else are you gonna go? I cut up my credit cards, man. When I went into the Foreign Legion, I cut up my credit cards, threw them in the trash. I had no way to get back. Yeah, and I wouldn't even call that people like burn the boats. I don't know what I was thinking. I thought that they would take my credit cards. I was still in kind of a hardcore mindset. I'm like, I don't need these. They're gonna, who knows why. But looking back, if I had, well, I don't know what I would have done. I really had no options in life. There was debts I wanted to clear up. I needed to simplify my life down, but I also knew I was still in it. Like, I didn't know how to live right yet. And I needed time to mature, simplify my life down. And it's exactly what I got. I got time. And in that time, man, I cleared up debts. I built up, I really structured my life and day, and I used that time wisely. I used it as a vehicle of self-development. I wasn't looking to go do Rambo shit. I knew it wasn't gonna be like SEALs. I knew it was gonna be, I thought maybe I'll get a gun, I'll deploy, maybe I'll do something cool. And we ended up doing some cool shit, deploying to South America, to deep jungle operations, which is actually what I wanted to do. But I went to the mountain regiment thinking that wasn't gonna be possible, and then they ended up sending me there. So it was hugely cool. Estonia, when Ukraine kicked off, we were working with the Brits and the Danes on and the Estonians on the Russian border, which was friggin' cool as the French contend. They would see my flag and then hear me talk. What the hell are you doing out here, mate? I'm like, dude, I don't know, dude. I took a hard left somewhere, you know? And it was cool, man. I had some really cool moments, domestic anti-terrorism missions that we did, patrols on the Riviera with an HK and a HK 416 and a Green Beret. We're like patrolling the beach, dude. Like as a, it's a small unit, very odd, but the French love it. Like, hey, bonjour, tu veux un café? You have to learn French, man. That's the other piece is you're getting full frontal French lessons via pain. If they hear you speaking English, it's a huge issue. Not that there was a lot of really good English speakers, but there was some dynamic there, man, where I had low moment. Let me get into a low moment. Getting into the Foreign Legion after making it through selection, after all this stuff. I show up at the Foreign Legion, dude, and I'm getting hazed. First night there, crawling in the snow. It's nighttime. It's freezing. I'm like, it smells like a brewery. They had a big party. Come to find out that wasn't really common, but hectic. And I'm going, dude, I'm 34. I cannot do this for 5 years, bro. Just getting hazed like this. I didn't know what I was going into. They check us into our room. I'm covered in paint. My uniform's all trashed. I have to get it ready for the morning. There's dead flies and rat shit on my bed. I'm going, damn. And I laid down, bro, and I had this moment. And I woke up the next day, and I mean next day like 30 minutes later from when I actually could lay down. And I went, dude, I don't know if I could do this, bro. I'm like, well, let me get up. And I got up and continued on, and here we are, right?
How long were you in the Foreign Legion?
4.5 years. So yeah, 4.5 years, and it was right. So we get back from Estonia, and now I'm kind of going into like this training phase and getting promoted and actually doing pretty well. So I go to promotional course, and now I go to a team lead mountain course, which is like, I was at a mountain regiment. We trained in the Alps. So we're in the French Alps in the summer and the winter. So after passing the basic winter one, I'm talking sleeping in igloos, like way up on the thing. It was pretty intense, man. And you got guys from Nepal in our unit, dude, just humbling, bro. Smoking cigarettes, walking up the mountain with skis and rifles and just like nothing. I'm like, like dying, bro. Very, very strong, powerful, but really cool moments, being on top of these mountains, skiing down. And it was on this team lead course. I passed the first introductory phase, and then I had like this calf injury from years prior in selection. I tore my medial calf muscle, and I just never got it fixed. It's still deformed, but it was really starting to kind of show itself here. I was just bogging down, dude. I could not keep the pace. And this is where I go, dude, I can't keep this pace. I'm not gonna slow down. And I'm talking, we had 5-6 guys in this small course because it was kind of a little bit more advanced. And I was hitting my limit, which I never thought I had one, but I really realized that, dude, I'm like hitting my limit now. I'm gonna get this calf checked out. So I ski down, I go into a hospital. They check me into the hospital for 6 weeks because they're like, dude, this thing is pretty fucked up. I don't know how you're walking, and they were doing a lot of MRIs on it. So there I am in that hospital for 6 weeks in this government French hospital going, I got some time, and I kind of want to tell my story, or I felt isolated, man, and I just wanted to get back connected with people because I had been off the grid for years. So that's when I started my Instagram, and I posted a picture and connected with some people, and because I hadn't told anybody where I was or nothing, nobody really other than my close family. And that's when I kind of started to get my connections and started sharing my story, and I shared it on YouTube about what I was and what I was doing, and I got a lot of feedback from veterans who were like, dude, I was about to kill myself, and I saw your story, and it really helped me. And I go, dude, maybe there's something here. And they're like, well, here's what I'm doing, and here's what I've learned to help me, that helped me. And I just shared with people what has helped me feel good about my day, feel good about my life and where I'm going, and it started to get some traction.
But the Foreign Legion didn't like that.
No, they did not like that. And it wasn't an issue. There's guys in the Foreign Legion with Instagrams and stuff. You could see them, and like they'll post it. They have an issue when it gets millions of views, right? because now there's a lot of, it's not an issue till it's an issue. And they want to be able to control the narrative, which I actually understand, totally understand that part of it. But I also have my life, and I'm getting out of the Foreign Legion, and I'm going to get out in 6 months. I'm moving trucks around a base. I got to get some traction moving in a direction. They told me to take it down. I said no. And so now we're at odds, right? That's a huge issue. And we got a lawyer and tried to fight that administrative battle, and it was not going to happen, right? It's just irreconcilable differences. So at some point, we had to pull chocks, and my lawyer was like, dude, I mean, they already said if you don't take this down, we're giving you back to back 30-day jail sentences before you're forced kicked out if you don't take it down. I'm going, bro. And they're putting you on bread and water and breaking big rocks into small rocks, mind you. It's not like chilling. I mean, you're doing manual labor, and I'm going, dude, I'm not taking it down. And so if I'm already getting kicked out, my lawyer's like, dude, you're not a citizen here. You're not a legal citizen. You're nothing. You don't have nothing here. So they have a lot of legal gray area. Like, they can put you in Foreign Legion jail. It's technically not legal, but it's what are you gonna do? And then you're gonna get booted out. So they're like, dude, you gotta pretty much leave the country. And so I ended up just leaving the country, breaking the contract.
Into what you're doing now. So you went from Foreign Legion to...
Yeah, I started coaching in my barracks room. So I had clients, and I was still working, and I'm doing my stuff, which was good. But, and I was super stoked. I wanted to stay in. I fought to stay in. I really wanted to finish up strong, because the truth is, man, I had a asterisk on my SEAL career, right? I did a full contract, and then it was in my second one, 7 years of SEAL teams, but it didn't end how I wanted. Now I was here, I wanted that clean redemption, but dude, redemption is not a fairy tale. It's just not. And even though you have this clear vision of when people get married, they don't picture themselves getting divorced, right? All people go, oh, you got to honor your word. I go, bro, you're divorced. Talk about honoring a word. Bro, institutions got no honor for you, man. I got news for you. You got to look out for you. And if you're being responsible and trying to help people and doing things, what's in your heart. And I believed I had a calling from God. Dude, I wasn't taking shit down for anybody.
That was your conviction, because you would say it's because of the impact you saw it making.
Brother, it was so, I was getting hundreds of emails saying, dudes, man, I was in there with my gun about to pull the trigger, and I had your YouTube popped up. Going, dude, I'm not taking that down. Fuck you, man. I'm just not doing it, dude. And if that's an issue, I'm talking about life and getting better here. I'm not talking about state secrets.
You're not trashing the Foreign Legion.
And I've never said anything negative about the Foreign Legion, still to this day. Ton of respect. I have respect for them as an institution, and I always will. There's going to be people on all sides that are going to have their opinion on it, but you got to do what's right in your heart. I knew what was right in my heart, and now, beautiful family, beautiful daughter, which you just met. It's like none of that would have happened, man. None of that would have happened if I hadn't have made that call. And guess what? It was not an easy call, because I didn't want to do it. It was not something that I felt like, oh, look good. Look, dude, I was really liking where I was at. I was liking working in the Foreign Legion and doing what I was and working with the guys I was. But at some point, you got to make a call for you that's for your future. That's actually for your calling. And if I felt like I was truly being called to something, that it felt wrong to go the other direction.
And it's completely different getting in trouble and getting a charge and getting pushed out of something versus creating something that's inspiring people and then that causing a reaction.
I'd like to think so, but you're always going to get haters and people that say different stuff. And everyone's entitled to their opinion. I know how I live every day, and I know what was going on in my head, because I was getting a ton family members who don't leave this. I was getting all the inputs that were saying don't do this, but they didn't know that I was getting threatened with jail. They didn't know I was getting threatened with going to get kicked out anyway. Right? They didn't know all these other things that I was just kind of internalizing and managing, which is, you got to take into consideration, right? You got to know the full scope of the situation. And when I balanced everything out, bro, it only made sense. And I needed to follow a path that I was scared of. Bro, I didn't know coaching or anything was going to work out. It's a huge variable. I had no idea how to do any of that. And so it was walking into the unknown, and it was what I knew was safe was staying in the Legion and staying in the military. That's safe. We talked about it a little bit. It's like that's the safe, easy road, actually, if that's the world you come from, and that's where I was safe and I knew. And so that was the easy way. And it felt like bowing a knee, kissing the ring, dude. And I wasn't gonna do that, man.
Yeah. And like you said, you still have a lot of respect for the SEALs, the Foreign Legion. Like, you never talk down on those.
Brother, great institutions, man. Great institutions, man. I'll only say positive things, right? Are there negative things in every unit? Sure, but it's not for me to say, bro. Definitely not for me to say. And that part doesn't matter. People will find that out if they go into those institutions. They could find out their own truth, right? And so it's not for me to put shade on any of it. A lot of positives. Foreign Legion, in a lot of respects, saved my life, right? In a lot of respects, gave me a second life. And at some point, things don't always pan out perfectly like a fairy tale, even though we wish they would.
So what I was going to ask is, what are some of the biggest things that you've learned or kept with you, maybe some lessons from the SEALs or the Foreign Legion?
Dude, the Navy SEAL, the SEAL community, it gave me a lot of confidence, right? It gave me a lot of confidence. The Foreign Legion gave me a lot of grit and patience. That's what I would say is the differences. It gave me a lot of grit and patience. It also, I would say, I learned a lot in the Foreign Legion in the sense that what I need to be happy is very minimal. Dude, I was washing my socks in the sink, hanging them up on the heater, like, washing your shirts, and I was happy, man. I had some of the best days of my life in that Foreign Legion barracks room, weighing my food, tracking the stuff, everything organized and simplified. Simple, right? And then carrying those same daily habits, good daily habits here. I still do push-ups in my, every day, at the same time, 3:30, 4:30 in the morning, every day. Just like I did in the Foreign Legion barracks room, because I found it's like a good touch point, having a good disciplined rhythm and gratitude for the day. Even if the day's hard, days are hard sometimes, man. We all know. It's like pressure and family and money and this and that, and getting up and still saying to yourself and to God, hey, I'm here, I'm grateful. I'm not crawling up in the comfortable bed just because it's too hard out. I'm gonna get up, pray, do my push-ups, start the day with a good clear mind, man, ahead of the game, ahead of it, so I can actually be proactive and not reactive.
I guess, what do you have to say to veterans or potential veterans that are thinking about getting out of the military, or maybe they've done the 20 years and they don't know what's next? There's a lot of that fear, a lot of that unknown. Based on your experience, what would you kind of have to say to them?
Start building your roadmap now, man. Design your life. What do you want? What lifestyle do you want? Where do you want to live? Like, start thinking about that stuff. You're not going to stumble into a designed life. You have to build it. So design it, especially if you're in the military, man. You got a good foundation to kind of roll it. Don't wait until 6 months out. Start planning this 2 years, 3 years in advance, maybe before, so you can walk into the life that you want. So you're got some momentum, and then taking all those good habits in the military. There's a lot of bad ones too. Shed those and use that same discipline. Do not lose your discipline. Don't start sleeping in. Don't start overeating. Dude, you got to maintain your fitness, and you got to maintain your tight schedule. It's so helpful, because those are the things that people who haven't been in the military don't have. You have guys that have never been in the military, don't know what waking up at 4 in the morning every day is. Use that to your advantage. Leverage your strengths. Leverage your discipline as a strength, because discipline and accurate work over a long period of time is going to crush everybody, dude. That's just up and down and just wishy-washy about whatever they're going to do.
Yeah. We're getting pretty close to wrapping it up, but I almost forgot, you said you had a friend or maybe some friends that are involved in the Ukraine war.
Yeah.
What have they been saying to you in their experience?
Bro, one of them, his brother died, Belarus. You got, Belarus, Ukraine, and a lot of the guys, there's different units, but dude, it's been hairy. They've been out there a long time. I had an American buddy that was in the Foreign Legion, who was a Marine, who, deserted and went to go fight in Ukraine, and he's been there for years. And it's, at times of no pay, a lot of big blocks of, definitely in the beginning and still, where you're fighting for free, and even guys who were clients of mine who've been over there, who are coming back, who are trying to get into that rhythm. I would say, for guys that have no purpose here, be careful about running there to find purpose, right? Be careful. Like, wherever you go, there you are. Have purpose and faith in your heart here and make clear decisions about where you go. Because even my homies there, they're like, dude, guys are coming over here unprepared about what you're walking into, right? It's a serious fucking war with drones and artillery and shit. It's, a very, very sketchy, dangerous situation over there. So know what you're doing.
And I think anybody who thinks about joining the military, maybe we watch too many war movies or play too much Call of Duty, we think we want to experience something, maybe a firefight.
Yeah.
But then you talk to someone who actually has, and it's not exactly something you should strive for, it seems like.
There was no great virtue learned. Yeah, you can have something to fall back on, what you're made of, I guess, but you can find that out in other ways, man. How do you wake up and show up every day for yourself? I promise you, that's a hard road to show up every day and be your best, man. There's guys who've been in a million firefights who aren't happy, right? Are fulfilled. So what does that say to you, right? That's not what it is. Can be good life experience that you can draw a lot from, and there's guys with a lot of experience, way more than me, right, that will have a lot of wisdom to draw on that are useful to listen to. But they'll be the first ones to tell you, dude, that's not the thing that's going to teach you about life and being a great person necessarily, right? It's like, or living well, especially. And what are we all trying to do, man? We're all trying to live well. Living well is a skill. It's a skill set, right? There's people that can live well and with not a lot. Likewise, there's people who live terribly with a lot. So therefore, it's a skill set.
When you think of the word redemption, what does it mean to you now?
Oh, redemption is a renewal of success, right? Redemption, it's coming back from the ashes. It's the second chance and taking it and winning, with that second chance. Redemption is that opportunity that is not missed once you get it again.
And your platform has obviously grown since starting it in the Foreign Legion, the YouTube and social media and the speaking engagements. What does it feel like now knowing that millions of people hear your story and your message?
It's good, man. I hope people can take it, whether they hate me or like me. There's people on both sides of the fence. I hope they can I trust they can take something and use it for their betterment. Use it for their family's betterment. If my whole message is anything, it's, dude, you're never out of the fight until the fat lady sings or you throw in the towel. Doesn't matter how bad it seems, you can still win. Doesn't matter how bad it seems or how bad are other people's, what you've done, right? There's very few things that are unrecoverable. Evil things and people do evil shit, fuck those people, right? Right? But if you've messed up, man, and you've done some shitty thing and whatever, and you think your life, it's not over, right? Don't make a permanent decision on temporary emotion.
Who was saying that to you when you were in those low places?
God. Nobody said anything to me, man, right? Or at least I didn't listen or I couldn't hear it.
So that would be your ultimate message, is just keep going. It's never the bottom.
Yeah, tune in, quiet the noise. Here would be if you're going through a really chaotic time, stop. Simplify down your inputs. Stop doing what you're doing. It's obviously not working. Slow down, simplify your life, cut back the vices, simplify your day, wake up early. Boom, start there. Things will start going in the right direction.
Yeah. Seems like things are going in the right direction for you now.
Yeah, man, and it's still challenging. This is the piece that self-sabotage, right? Peaks and valleys. It's like I'm very cognizant of when now, especially with more at stake, family and kids and stuff, it's like when the momentum's picking up, I slow it back down. Still to this day, dude, it's like, okay, making sure my inputs, is my morning tight? Am I thinking right? Am I maintaining that positive self-talk, which is a lot of what I go into and kind of mentor guys on is, bro, how are you speaking to yourself? Raising consciousness about your internal dialogue is the lens on the world. It changes everything from, oh, it's a gray sky to, oh man, it's a good day. Just a slight paradigm shift changes everything. And you got to train the brain. And so keeping that positive self-talk is a requirement, man, because you'll see that optimism sees opportunity. You don't want to be that pessimist and that negative talk. It's a cancer in our life if we allow ourselves to go that direction. That's easier.
Yeah, it's funny, the Bible, regardless of what people believe, has been saying that for thousands of years. The tongue is a rudder of the ship.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, it's biblical. And it's funny, recently, I guess science has caught up, and then, it says now that there's science behind it that what you say will literally change your mind, like how it operates. And that's why a lot of counselors, the first thing they say to people is just speak to yourself positive things. Even if you're lying to yourself in the beginning, it will change your life. And I mean, you've seen that practically.
Casting spells, they call it spelling for a reason, right? You're casting spells out there. You're putting out energy into the world, and anything you're putting out, you're getting back. You're approaching the life and, fuck these people, you'll hear people say, man, I hate people, I like being alone. I go, guess what? Why do you feel so much hatred? Dude, not a good way to go about it. Dude, you can understand that there's complexity in the world, but there's good people everywhere, and start seeing the good and not the bad.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you sitting down with me. Your story is inspiring, and definitely I think there's a reason why it brings hope to so many. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Nah, man, everybody keep chugging. We keep pressing.